begin, you may wish to familiarise yourself with Mark chapter 15, verses 22 to the end. The crucifixion story can be quite difficult to try and relate to. In the next chapter of Mark's Gospel, it tells us in great detail about Jesus' physical pain, but I believe this chapter gives us an indication of the mental pain that he would have been feeling as well on that day. In verse 23, it reads, "They gave him a mixture of wine and myrrh, but he didn't take it." This verse is significant because this cocktail was pain relief with the same effects as our anesthesia today. Jesus' refusal left him open to feeling the fully physical pain that he was about to go through. You see, when you don't have your pain numbed through pain relief, when it's so severe, it can be really difficult to focus. It can be difficult to keep alert. You become very vulnerable. You're emotional. You're defensive, snappy and angry. And I'm speaking the heart as someone who lives with chronic pain that can be medicated, pain that is widespread from my head to my toes. In a previous passage leading up to this, we are told that Jesus was being dressed in purple, colour that would have been worn by kings. And when Romans dressed him in this colour, this was mocking him. This was, I suppose, taking the piss, as we might say nowadays. They then stripped him of this royal robes and they placed him in his own clothes. And they then began to spit at him, as was the ritual walking through Golgotha. He walked through crowds of people, shouting insults as it was common to do at crucifixion sites. In verse 27, it said, "They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and one on his left." Jesus would have been treated, he's been treated like a common criminal. No doubt this was humiliating in its own right. And in verse 29, it says, "You were going to destroy the temple, were you? And build it up in 3 days?" This was mocking him. This was similar to verbal abuse and verbal bullying that we see today. I can imagine this atmosphere around Jesus with these insults being spoken to him. I feel that their voices would have been stern and angry with all these people encircling him from side to side. It would have been claustrophobic. It reminds me of when I was a child, when I was at high school. I was walking to class and I was verbally mocked for my immature appearance. One boy started verbally abusing me and then others quickly joined in, and I was trapped on the corridor being pushed from one to the other, and I had my breast groped to see if there really was anything there. This experience perhaps some of you have also been through. I felt small, I felt weak and frightened. I cried and I wanted to be helped, but there's nobody who came to rescue me. It also reminds me of now, the daily struggles that I face going around town with my wheelchair and the strong emotions and judgments that are made and the verbal abuse by other people. Here at the Ordinary Office, we are all a bunch of misfits, a bunch of people on the margins, and I bet some of you have faced similar abuse too. Now, if you can take yourself back to any of these and the emotions that you felt there and then, don't worry if you cannot. I just wonder if this is how Jesus would have felt. Did he feel like we feel when we're made so vulnerable and undergoing so much abuse? Jesus will have wanted his dad so much to rescue him right there and then, but no. And then the cruelest of words were spoken to Jesus in verse 32. "Messiah is he, King of Israel," did they say? "Well then, let's see him come down from that cross. I'll see it when I believe it." This statement is calling him a fraud. Jesus would have been hung on that cross for some point by now, and all that physical pain would have left him fatigued and delirious. And he would have been there naked and humiliated. No doubt he would have been desperate to show them, but he would have struggled to hold back his emotions and that urge to defend himself. For me and others, I guess this is so relatable. How many times we have been brought to the point of emotional vulnerability that we have hit defense mode within us, that we have pushed ourselves to prove to others. But Jesus, he could not show them. He could not defend himself because proving that in the moment that he was the Son of God, well, no, he had to die to be risen again. He had to die to rise again. Jesus was subjected to great humiliation. He was stripped naked, verbally abused and mocked, with the greatest of physical pain delivered upon him. No doubt his mind may have felt detached from his body, with so much to comprehend. I remember this Christmas seeing an online joke about dyslexic people writing to Santa, only of course it was misspelled Satan, and all the people that were jumping upon this joke. And it just seems that as disabled people seem to feel that it's okay to take the mickey out of us. It's okay to make jokes. And I feel this is the same for other communities, for the LGBTQ plus community, those of you with mental health needs, those of you with substance misuse. We always seem to be the backbone of everybody's jokes. You know, and it makes you feel small and insignificant. It makes you feel that you're ignored. It makes you feel angry when people talk to the person who you're with and not you. See, nobody should be the subject of one person's jokes, mocked for their appearance, verbally abused and insulted. Nobody is immune, not even Jesus. This emotional cost to a person's mental health, we need to actively watch out for each other and help each other. Let us also remember that in Jesus' suffering that he went through, both physically and mentally, he did so that he could be with all of us when we are placed in that emotional state, when we are vulnerable and facing persecution and bullying. And when he rose again, he both scars, both physically and mentally, he kept them. He suffered and he died for us, and he loves each of us unconditionally.